Hello, 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 and welcome to Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream, the news talk forum channel of the Texas Grassroots Alliance. I'm Neil Aquino here in Houston. We have Alexander Montalvo in Fort Worth, and our guest today, the excellent top activist involved, Danita Jones in Dallas. Hello, Danita. What do you say?
Let's raise some hell.
We're going to raise some hell. We're going to raise some hell. And so Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream, and this is our fifth broadcast, our first guest, and we are looking to grow, build, and become a huge, big channel of autonomous grassroots communication as we approach the election, as we approach all the gravity of this election year, and to highlight excellent guests and people truly doing the work of which Danita fits that bill by definition. And a big topic we're going to talk about today is the Poor People's Campaign, of which Danita is a prominent architect, leader, and colleague here in Texas. So Danita, tell us just first a little bit about the Poor People's Campaign, just a thumbnail sketch and the upcoming event, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival, is in 46 states across the country, and Texas is one of those states, and I serve as one of the tri-chairs. And what we do, we organize from the bottom up. We organize those that are directly impacted so that they can share their voice and they can be the narrator of their story and not the outside.
Perfect. And there is we'll let Alex in with a question, but there is a historical antecedent. This is based on Martin Luther King and his what happened took place after his death, right? The encampment in Washington, and then the Poor People's. Talk a little bit about that work that you're building on.
Okay, so yeah, it was, I would say, launched in 1968, but it didn't continue its fruition because of the assassination of MLK. And so when Reverend Barber relaunched the National Poor People's Campaign, a call for more revival, it became what we needed.
And I think we've
lost
Danita's audio.
Danita's audio. Let's see.
Sort of.
Looks like we lost your audio there for a second, Danita. We got you back.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's synonymous with the working class, the class that's disappearing, the class that the nation carries the nation on its back. Those that are less forgotten during COVID, those were the essential workers, and now they're nothing. So it's imperative that they have this type of platform with the Poor People's Campaign. It's imperative that they do the political education so they are able to amplify their messaging. And so one of the slogans of the Poor People's Campaign is to organize from the bottom up, meaning we're going to organize the working class, the low income, the unhoused, the dispossessed, to rise them, bring them to the top, because we already know the 1% is on the top. And we know there's no such thing as trickle-down economics. So we'll never get a piece of that pie, but we will organize until you hear us.
Yeah, and just super quickly, I apologize. Just super quickly for the audience, Reverend Barber's deservedly well known, but just for folks who don't know who he is, just really quick, and then I apologize.
Okay, so Reverend Barber is one of the co-chairs of a Poor People's Campaign National Call for More Revival, along with Reverend Liz Steele Harris, who now is teaching a class in Austin Seminary School for this semester. So that's good if you want to take a class there. But they are the co-chairs of the Poor People's Campaign. They operate this together collectively. And Reverend Barbara has been doing this for quite some time, and it initially started in North Carolina with the More Mondays to organize against voter suppression.
Alex?
Yeah, so it's been exciting to see what the Poor People's Campaign is doing, and getting connected to it through Danita's amazing work, and just the opportunity for us to build this momentum in this crucial election year of 2024. Danita, share with folks a little bit of your background, kind of as an organizer, just the amazing work you've been able to be a part of, and just kind of why you keep sticking with it. Why are you a grassroots organizer?
Because that's what my heart is. I'm a part of the working class. I'm not going to lie, it took me a minute to get there. Because we think because we have a car, we have a roof over our head, that we're part of the middle class. We're part of the structure that keeps this wheel moving and churning. But in actuality, if I'm not bringing in six figures, I'm not. I am the working poor. Just like many of my colleagues in the state of Texas and across the nation, we are the working poor. And we don't have a voice. No matter how many candidates or elected officials come about, no one talks about our issues. So who was best to talk about our issues but us? And I find it very important, specifically since during the ice storm, I was without power, 2 weeks without power, no end in sight. No one listened to us. And yet I was still being charged for utilities that I didn't have. And I wasn't the only one. And it's like, you knew about this 10 years ago. And here we are again. And to live with that anxiety every February that this is going to happen again, a change got to come. And if it's not coming from our elected officials, if it's not coming from our candidates, it's got to come from us, the grassroots organizers, those that are directly impacted. Change has got to be coming from us. And if we have to keep pushing until we're heard because our back's up against the wall, then that's what we'll do.
And as in terms of networks of mutual support, Alex has been participating, I believe, in some of the press conferences and some of the events. So that's some of the sort of the mutual reliance that Texas Grassroots Alliance members do for each other. And we are on Facebook. What are we on? Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And feel free to leave a comment, add it to the chat, have a question or comment for Danita, and certainly your participation is a big part of the show.
Yeah, very, very exciting, Neil, that we are live on Instagram today for the first time as we continue to expand the various platforms that we're going to live stream grassroots organizing conversations and the perspective of Texas grassroots organizers as we engage in this work. So I'm going to share with folks just a little bit around the Poor People's Campaign and this major event that is coming up on March the 2nd. We have a People's Assembly that's going to be at the Capitol from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is Saturday, March 2nd. And this is where we're calling all people who believe and demand on a slate of progressive issues that we need to see implemented in our state and throughout our country. This is around living wages, healthcare, voting rights, stopping voter suppression, equal rights for all, worker labor rights, environmental justice, access to housing, fully funded public education, abolishing poverty and the unity of love, not the division of hate, and so much more. There's immigration reform, there's criminal justice reform. There's so many things that folks are being impacted by negatively in our state, because right now we have a government and a leadership in the state that thrives on chaos, thrives on harm. And the Poor People's Campaign is wanting everyone to come together on March 2nd in Austin as they kick off 40 weeks of action for 2024. And this is going to be happening in 33 other states throughout the country, including Washington, D.C. So, Danita, tell us a little bit about this effort, this People's Assembly, why this is such an important opportunity for us in Texas.
Okay, this is an excellent opportunity, and the timing couldn't be better because this is where our elected officials and our candidates, this is an election year. This is where the rubber meets the road. You've talked a good game. You said what you were going to do, your expectations. Now let's see what the actions are going to be about. Because these are the people that you are wanting to vote for you. These are the people who have not been heard. They have their issues and concerns have been unheard for years. I know for the last 7 years I've been here, they've been unheard. We love our elected officials, our top elected officials love to tell us that they care for the children and that they're doing this for the children and they're doing this for the children. But Texas leads the nation in school shootings.
Right.
Texas leads the nation in school shootings, but you love our children, but you won't do anything around gun control laws or anything like that. You love our children, yet you underfund our public education. But you love our children. You love our children, and yet if our teachers get a raise, it's because it's attached on to some pork in a bill, because it comes with strings attached. But you love our children. You love the residents. You care about the residents. But yet 50 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies that are in Texas, they don't pay taxes. Who do you think is footing the bill? Who do you think is footing the bill for these corporations? We are, the little people. We are. And it's time for that to be addressed. It's time for us to talk about it. It is time for us to stop being fearful that our elected officials won't like us, because they're not in the job to be liked.
Right.
We elected them to do a job. We elected them to represent us. Those are our offices.
So
won't even take our calls.
right. Whenever I hear it's for the children, I know that's when the lies start. That's it's for the children. Yeah. And so what you just brought up is a consistent conversation in Texas Grassroots Alliance. The interplay between groups such as the Poor People's Campaign and others, and elected officials. So are any elected officials speaking on March 2nd? Are any participating in the actions? Have you asked? Do you want them? How does that go?
So the grassroots aspect of the Poor People's Campaign, this is a people's campaign. It's not an elected official campaign. It's not for you to do your stump speech. It's not for any of that. It is for the people, by the people. And when I say for the people, by the people, it's nonpartisan. We don't care, if you're a yellow dog Democrat or or raging Republican. It doesn't matter, because both sides have hurt the people. And we need the people to understand we got to stop looking at parties. We got to stop looking at candidates and look at the policies that they've voted against and those that they've voted for. Because far too often we get caught up in the celebrity of a candidate or an elected official and not their actual track record. And we want people to start looking at the track record, looking at the policies that are put in place to keep us oppressed, to keep us down.
And this is and the funding. So the funding isn't contingent, right? So many nonprofits and many do good work. Some do good work. Their funding is contingent on relationships or the funding of elected officials, and I'm gathering that and which in my view inhibits their ability to act or makes them unreliable allies as we move towards sort of authoritarian outcomes. I'm wagering that isn't the case with your shop.
No, we fund ourselves. We are the poor lifting up the poor. We don't take major donations from parties or elected officials like that, simply because in my organizing efforts, a lot of organizations, especially large organizations and statewide organizations, they become part of the problem because they are only allowed to talk just so much about an issue or they risk losing their funding. They become part of the problem. They become performative. Oh, let's talk about health care, but let's not talk too much about health care. You know, we're a state that started last year, January, with $32.7 billion in surplus.
And before we go to Alex's question, because Danita is such an excellent guest, we have some viewers, and we'd love to hear your, feel free to comment in the chat. If you're watching, share with others that Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream is on with Danita Jones talking about the Poor People's campaign and all of her efforts. And let's help spread the word and build our own networks of communications for multiple reasons as we move forward. Alex, what do you got?
Well, we're going to share the QR code for everyone on the screen that if you can attend and you want to help spread the word about the March 2nd People's Assembly happening at the Texas Capitol in Austin from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., go ahead and scan that QR code. Let us know you're coming. Be a part of a whole collection of organizations and community organizers, impacted Texans, where a lot of folks don't realize a third of our electorate, over 7 million registered voters in Texas, are poor and low income. And so we have the power to change not only Texas, but this country by bringing everyone together and demanding this slate of policies that the Poor People's Campaign is bringing everyone together around. What I want to go ahead and do for folks is we're going to play a little promo video that the Poor People's Campaign has put together so they can learn a little bit more, and then we will talk a little bit more about this after this video here. So this will be about 4 to 5 minutes. And definitely, if you're watching us live, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments. Ask questions. Give us feedback. We'd love to be able to interact with you while we're live.
To pay my bills since I've been working at 16 years old. I work full-time 64 hours a week, 7 days a week. I am exhausted.
Our government finds it necessary to ban abortion, to say that they are saving our children. But more children die as a result of poverty in this country.
We should not be cornered and forced to choose one necessity over another.
This is the consequences that we face. So what our people say is that we are fighting the oldest evil.
No matter how you call the holy, all of our sacred texts compel us to create a world in which there is enough for us all.
in the face of a distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism, we declare that silence is betrayal.
We gather on these streets in the spirit of MS, who declared hate evil and love good and establish justice.
We heed the charge from the Holy Quran. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qist. O you who have believed, be persistent, standing firm in justice, witnesses for God.
Hope comes from the bottom, from those most directly impacted by the profound evils of America.
Our votes are not a show of support. They are a demand.
We will raise our cry and we will call for change, because nothing less would be a betrayal of our sacred commitment.
We are here. We are the poor and dispossessed, and we are here.
Until children are protected, sick folk are healed, low-wage workers are paid, immigrants are treated fairly, affordable houses are provided, until saving the world and diplomacy and living in peace is more important than blowing up the world. We won't be silent anymore. If we've got to march, we'll march. If we've got to engage in nonviolent direct action, we'll engage. If we have to ask workers to make election day a labor strike day, we'll do it. But until then, we won't be silent or unseen or unheard anymore.
Wow, what a powerful video, sharing what it looks like when folks across the country that are impacted by the policies that continue to keep poverty as the fourth leading cause of death in America, what that looks like when we come together to fight back. And we have a chance to continue that in 2024. Love to hear y'all's thoughts after seeing that promo. Neil, have you seen this promo video before? I'm not too sure if you've
No, I've not. No, very impactful. Good.
So, Danita, you've been there in these marches. Oh, it looks like, Danita, we may have lost your audio.
I was muted. Sorry. I've been to the marches in D.C. I've marched with my comrades in Pennsylvania, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, here. Words cannot really explain the power and the love that is there. Talking to someone from El Paso and we share the same struggle. Talking to someone from Beaumont and we sharing the same struggle. And that's what brings everyone together, because we're all, no matter how vast this state is, we're all struggling with the same issues. And that should not be. That should not be. This country, this state is rich. Why are we struggling? Why are people dying from hunger? And yet we have our state governor who decided, oh no, we're not gonna participate in the summer school feeding programs for our students. No, we don't need that. My home state, we're not gonna do that either. We're not gonna become a welfare state. Sir, I don't know what stats you're looking at, but you're already a welfare state. We're dealing with leaders like that. Leaders that tell you to your face that we care about you. We care about your children. We're just not going to feed you. We're not going to house you. We're not going to give you health care. But we care about you.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned different cities. This is going to be an assemblage in Austin of folks, or not just cities. And that's an important part of the Texas Grassroots Alliance. Not just cities, not just big counties, but the whole state. And so you're going to have folks from the whole state joining you on March 2nd.
Yes, the invitation, the call has been put out to individuals, organizations, faith leaders to come and assemble with us at the state capitol to stand in solidarity, because that's what they don't want. They don't want you to know what you have in common with someone else, because that's how they've been winning, because they have divided us by some of the most mundane things. Immigrants are taking your jobs. No, they're not. Immigrants pay taxes. But the narrative is different. No one wants to work. Yes, we do. We just want to make a way where we don't have to work 124 hours a week to earn a living. So they don't want to see us organized together, collectively, across all socioeconomic standings, racial backgrounds. They don't want that, because once we start to talk and communicate and see that we have so much more in common than what separates us, we'll be unstoppable.
Right. And I liked in the video, I think I saw it say a third Reconstruction. So I'm gonna wager, without being 100% sure, I'm gonna wager that the second Reconstruction was the Civil Rights Movement, and which is now like the first Reconstruction being violently undone. Mm-hmm. And I like that use. I like that term. I like the historical reference, and I think that captures the gravity and extent of the task.
Right.
And inadvertently, and maybe not, catches how aggressive the rollback of the civil rights era, let alone the Great Society and the New Deal. Well, they'd like to get the progressive income tax too, but they're going after all of it, aren't they? They're coming after every single thing.
Everything.
They're coming after everything.
Everything.
Alex, you want to? We had a fact sheet.
Yeah, we're gonna quickly share that the Poor People's Campaign had a press conference this week, and the San Antonio Current covered this press conference that brought leaders together, that shared stories of impacted Texans. And so we're going to put this link in the chat so that y'all can have this as a resource, as well as the link to the press conference itself. So definitely, we want folks to make sure they're helping spread the word, because we want to see as many Texans as possible there at the Capitol. But yeah, let's go to this fact sheet here and highlight some of the key information that is on this fact sheet. This was a 2023, and I think what's so striking is the first sentence says in 2019, before the pandemic hit. 140 million Americans were living in poverty or just one emergency away from economic ruin. That's something to really think about, because we know the pandemic has impacted so many families. And while we got relief for a portion of it, while there were things that came in to help our institutions, to help us as individuals, all of that was temporary. And that is all going away. We're seeing that go away with funding for public education. We're seeing that with people having access to Medicaid. We see Texas not being a part of the food program this summer to feed children. So we see all of these relief efforts from the pandemic going away. And we already know that people were impacted by the pandemic. Evictions are on the rise. And so for poverty to be the fourth leading cause of death in 2019 before the pandemic, that shows how big of an impact it is having on people's very lives. And this is something that we must stop in order for us to have a functioning country, a functioning democracy, because as this continues, we see our very democracy eroding. So, Anita, I want to go to you to see if there's anything else you'd like to share around this initial part of the fact sheet that the Poor People's Campaign has kind of gotten for Texas.
I just want people to pay attention to the date, to the year. In 2019, and then in 2023, and here we are in 2024, and poverty is still the leading cause of death, one of the fourth leading cause of death in this country. And yet, again, we're bringing in, we started this year with $32 billion in surplus. We've cut off right at 2.7 million people off of Medicaid in the state of Texas. Many of those people were cut from SNAP benefits as well, with no forewarning, with no justification. They were cut off. When you're stressed about how you're going to feed your children or even yourself, that takes a toll on your body. That takes a toll on your health. But guess what? You don't have health care. So that's something you can't worry about. So now you have undiagnosed illnesses. But you still got to keep chugging it where it works. Because some of our jobs, we don't have paid leave on. We don't have paid health care. So it's like being on a hamster wheel. No matter what I do, I can't get off. No matter what I do, I can't get off. And they're telling you, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Some people don't have boots. They want to quote scripture, but they want to take it out of context. They want to take it out of context. You know, one of the main scriptures, we have to take care of the least of these. The poor, the unhoused, the dispossessed. Those are the least of these. But yet we're punishing them for being the least of these. We're punishing them for being unhoused. You can go to jail. You can get arrested. We're punishing people for being poor, and we created poverty. Our elected officials created this cycle that people are in that they cannot get out of. And they have decided that it's not worth to remedy.
Yeah, that's this is a great resource of the Poor People's Campaign to help people understand the size of the problem that poverty is having. And they have a great line at the end: fight poverty, not the poor, because that's exactly what we see policies are doing, is they're harming people versus trying to help solve the circumstance. So we're going to go to some of the items that they have in this fact sheet. And number one in their fact sheet is centered around poverty and low wages. It says poverty is a policy choice reflecting both low wages and the high cost of living. These two conditions make it hard to meet basic needs and easy to fall in debt. In Texas, between 2018 and 2020, there were over 11 million, almost 12 million poor and low-income people, accounting for 41.1% of the population. To meet their basic needs, 2 adults and 2 children need to earn $23 an hour, yet the current minimum wage established by the federal government is $7.25. At this wage, an individual must work 124 hours a week to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment. That's quite a stat there. 124 hours, Danita, to just afford the place to live, right?
Yeah, that's just a roof. That's no food on the table,
right?
Like, there's no food on the table. There's nothing. That's just for a roof over your head. But just imagine with that 11 million people that's affected by this. Start speaking, gaining their voice, understanding the power within their voice, understanding the power in organizing their community, how we can change that, how we can lift from the bottom and change that. And think about it. If you get 11 million people in the state of Texas to start thinking about how elected officials and policies have harmed them, the change that we can make in the primaries and in November just by going to the polls. But oftentimes we don't go to the polls because we don't see our issues on the table. We don't see or hear anyone talk about our issues. They talk about, you know, popular issues, trigger issues, issues that have garnered the most attention. You know, I'm not saying that those issues are not important, but when 41% of your population is struggling to eat, struggling to survive, I think a conversation about livable wages needs to be had.
And we talk about that's a form of voter suppression in itself, that refusal to right, and it doesn't come from the people whom we often identify as the usual suspects. And I'll just speak for myself. One of the hardest things people who do this type of work or who have these types of concerns sometimes have a hard time grasping is that some of the officials we trust are not advocates of voter turnout, and they know exactly what they're doing, or they've been there so long they've just lost sight of what the impact they could have or maybe once had. But our elected officials could do so much just to rally turnout. And maybe enact some of these policies, and that often that basic step isn't even done, and not only not done, actively repressed and suppressed.
Right. I mean, because in the state of Texas, there were 165, 66 restrictive voter bills that were introduced last session. If voting wasn't as powerful as it was, we wouldn't have had that many bills introduced. We wouldn't have had that many bills introduced, but they know the power in it. So they're going to pull out all the stops to make it as hard and difficult for people to vote as they possibly can.
Yeah, we just had in Tarrant County, the Commissioner's Court just decided to not fund free rides for people through the transit system, through the buses that are available to get to the polls. And the reasoning was because the Tarrant County GOP chair said this is using government money to get Democrats to the polls. That's all this is. And the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court is 3-2 with the majority to the Republicans, and they voted that way. And this goes to show that, you know, the lengths that people are willing to take to try to get people not to vote by even just offering services for people that we know do not have the resources, that we know can benefit. And also, just why not just give free rides in case anybody wants to have a free ride to the poll? What is the harm in that, right? What is the harm in actually helping encourage, you know, engaging in democracy? Well, we know why, because if enough of the community participated in, it would take away their power. It would take away the oppression that is happening. And this oppression happens in different places in different ways, right? From different government officials. And like we said, while there's a lot of extremism right now in the Republican Party and in the far right movement that is happening, there have been issues historically from every party. And so this is something that we need people to understand. We need to demand solutions around meeting the needs of the people. Because it was also a Democratic senator that decided, or two Democratic senators that decided not to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour in the U.S. Congress, right? And so West Virginia and Arizona, their U.S. senators voted not to pass this in the middle of the pandemic when people were needing so much. And we showed that we can give relief. That's something that we just got from somebody who's watching us on the live stream, Sister Fury 88, that I think folks here may know who that is, right? Anybody want to give a shout out to Roxy Williamson over in Galveston?
Okay, perfect. Okay. Hello, Roxy.
Roxy
Excellent.
shared in the
Roxy!
chat the pandemic showed us what relief looks like.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we're in our last. Okay, so that's a great segue. So now we're in our last 10 minutes with Danita here, and Roxy's perfect for this segue. So this is Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream. This is our 5th episode. We're building up this channel, this network of communication, and we've featured so far or highlighted Michelle Davis's excellent Lone Star Left newsletter, Shirley Shaw's blog with Black Lives Matters in New Braunfels, Daniel Cohen's Indivisible Houston effort, which did such great organizing against the rogue district attorney Kim Ogg, Egberto Willie's excellent Politics Done Right show, My Houston Democracy Project, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and we talked about the Texas Progressive Caucus with Clayton Tucker, and that brings a rural bent. We have excellent activists like Roxy, who's in Galveston, consistently on our calls, and we have activists from Waco, Texarkana, and there's one other city that's eluding me, but we're from all over, and so we're building this channel of communication. Everybody, every part of the state, and we're going to have our channels of communication free from needing reliance on elected officials, and hopefully enough channels of communication when we hit an authoritarian moment, and we've seen how Twitter can be restricted so quickly, or today how your phone can go down. We want to be able to communicate no matter what comes, and so these are 2 reasons among many that we're proceeding. That's kind of that's the show. You might be watching this on rebroadcast. Share word of it, and that's what we're getting at, and that's what we're building here. And Danita's generously given of her time. And we got 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I think that's. Go ahead, Danita. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want people to understand the importance of, you don't have to be a political nerd. You don't have to, have to read every textbook there is to know that you're struggling and that there are needed solutions out there. You don't have to be, a PhD graduate to know that 725 cannot feed a family. You don't have to be a political person to know that. You just have to be a humane person. You have to be a humane person. And what we're seeing here is the breakdown of humanity alongside the breakdown of democracy.
Right. Yeah.
And
you don't
I
need
think it's
special knowledge to
important.
make the difference.
No, you don't need special knowledge to know the difference. You don't need special knowledge to know that time and time again, policies and elected officials that employ these policies are not doing it for the greater good. They're not doing it for the greater good. They're not doing it for the benefit of us. They're doing it for the benefit of them. We have too many long-term politicians sitting in seats in offices. There's no reason for you to have been in office 20 years and the district you represent has a food desert. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And people need to understand and be aware and conscious with what they're dealing with themselves, and know that it is okay to talk back. It is okay. I know we're in the South and you're not supposed to talk back to your elders, but we're all elders now. It's okay to talk back. It's okay to push back. It's okay to say, where are the businesses going? It's okay to say, where are the jobs going? It's okay to say, I can't pay my bills, because that is your reality. And we cannot afford to be quiet anymore.
%, Danita, and just thank you so much for your time today, for all the organizing your work you're doing throughout the huge state of Texas. I couldn't think of what word I wanted to choose to describe just the enormity of our state. And the Poor People's Campaign, once again, is going to be having a People's Assembly on March 2nd. You can scan this QR code to indicate you're coming so that folks can, so you can join us. You can invite others to join us. We want everyone to be there as we kick off 40 weeks of action around this 2024 election to make sure and to demand that poverty is addressed in our state and in our country. And as we also share, you can also donate to the Texas Grassroots Alliance. This helps us continue these collaborations, continue these kind of efforts so that we can get support to the grassroots organizers you see here, as well as the grassroots organizers in your community. And we're going to keep highlighting more and more grassroots organizers throughout the state of Texas who are leading the work. It's important for people to understand the immense amount of work that grassroots organizers in your community are leading the work. And sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to market, to brand themselves, to run a legal entity because they are so busy doing the work. And that's why the Texas Grassroots Alliance is here, so we can help uplift their stories, their perspectives, and the amazing impact that they're making against the huge amount of just hurdles and oppression and just chaos that is happening in our state. The second time I use huge, Neil. This is a problem. I need to find a better word.
That's all right. I'll tell you, you highlight.
We got big old problems in Texas, y'all. Big old problems.
Yeah. And we won't go into it for another day, but what Alex highlights and what Danita's highlights, the exploitive labor market of activism, of progressive activism, it's a real problem. The people, you've got people out there, braving the heat because they're afraid their granddaughter is going to be prosecuted for miscarriage, and block walking. There's all sorts of forms of activism. We need to recognize it. People need to be acknowledged, respected, and paid.
Absolutely. And don't feel like the pressure. Like, they're pressuring people to do this for free when people are already struggling. If you want change, you'll block walk. If you want change, you'll do this. But it's like, it's still free labor, and it's not really helping me.
Yeah, that's right. Right. That's beautiful. Yes. Damn right.
Well, Danita, this is the first time of many that we will be together and that you will be talking to folks from the work that you're doing in grassroots organizing in Texas. Excited that you were able to join us as the first or the third co-host or guest, or however we want to categorize it for today. But Neil and I are both excited that more organizers are going to be utilizing this as a tool, and also that you'll see less of our faces and you'll see more of other faces. So thanks so much for riding along with us on this experiment. So as we continue to build out our platform, our formats, and everything that we're trying to do. And once again, we are now live streaming on Instagram as of today. So excited that we are 4 platforms in, and we will continue to expand to make sure that the word gets out to Texans about the work that grassroots organizers are doing across our state.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Anytime.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a good one.